Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Musa Ahmad, Vice Chancellor University Sains Islam Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zulkifli Abdul Gani, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and Internationalization. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Hassan Basri bin Awang Maddahan, Deputy Vice Chancellor Student Affairs and Alumni. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Mustafa Muhammad Hanifa, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation. Our speaker, Professor Dr. Hussain Ismail Abdul Gani, University High officials, University Senate members, distinguished guests, professors, fellows and academicians, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. On behalf of University Sains Islam Malaysia USIM and the Faculty of Major Language Studies, we would like to thank you for your presence and welcome you to the professorial inaugural lecture today, and we are privileged to have the speaker of today's lecture, Professor Dr. Hussain Ismail Abdul Gani, to be with us this morning. In seeking Allah's blessings, we would like to invite Dr. Kirambue Rashid Abdul Hamid to lead the recitation of Dua.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi'ul mazida min fadli. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhikal karimi wa azimi sultanik. Inna la nuhsi thanaa'a 'alaika anta kama athnaita 'ala nafsik. Fala tu'akhidhna bima fa'alna wala bima fa'ala as-sufaha'u minna wala bima fa'ala al-mubtilun. فاغفر لنا مغفرة من عندك وارحمنا إنك أنت الله الرب الغفور الرحيم. اللهم أصلح ولاتنا وولاة أمورنا واجعلهم هداة مهتدين يعملون بالحق وبه يعدلون. اللهم هيئ لهم البطانة الصالحة التي تدلهم على الخير وتعينهم عليه ولا تسلط علينا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا يا الله. وخذ ثأرنا على من ظلمنا وانصرنا على من عادانا يا رب العالمين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما يا رب. اللهم ربنا اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا منا ولا معنا شقيا ولا محروما يا رب العالمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. قبل الله منك.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid. Ladies and gentlemen, the professorial inaugural lecture is one of the series of University Sains Islam Malaysia's public lectures. It is USIM's aspirations to promote academic discourse by providing the platform to present ideas, research, experience and practice, also by engaging in deliberations and sharing in the promotion and expansion of knowledge to all. USIM's series of public lectures is an important medium to fulfill that role and obligation. This morning, we are privileged to have with us Professor Dr. Hussain Ismail Abdul Gani, a speaker who is internationally renowned in the field of education, with his lecture entitled, "A Nation at Risk, Are Muslims Backward in Higher Education?" With that, we would like to invite Yang Berbahagia, Professor Datuk Dr. Musa Ahmad, Vice Chancellor of USIM, to introduce Professor Dr. Hussain Ismail Abdul Gani, our speaker, for the professorial inaugural lecture today.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajmain. Dengan nama Allah yang Maha Pengasih lagi Maha Penyayang, selawat dan salam ke atas junjungan baginda Rasulullah SAW. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zulkifli Abdul Gani, Timbalan Chancellor Akademik dan Antarabangsa. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Hassan Basri bin Awang Maddahan, Timbalan Chancellor, ahli pelajar dan alumni. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Mustafa Muhammad Hanifah, Timbalan Chancellor Pendidikan dan Inovasi. Our speaker, Profesor Dr. HUSSAIN ISMAIL ABDUL GANY, ahli-ahli JKPU, distinguished guests, deans, professors, fellows, and academicians, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning. And salam integrasi ilmu nakli dan akli. Alhamdulillah, okay, praise be to Allah SWT for His grace and blessing. Grace and peace be upon Prophet Muhammad SAW, his family, and all his companions. Today, in this beautiful and glorious morning, we are gathered here for another academic tradition of knowledge sharing led by Honorable Professor Dr. HUSSAIN ISMAIL ABDUL GANY. On behalf of the university, I wish to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed speaker, distinguished guests, faculty members, and fellow academicians. So selamat datang to all of you. And my congratulations to the Faculty of Major Languages Studies as the host of these sessions. Many are of the opinion that the present higher education system is at a crossroad. The world is in search of an alternative. Can the religion Islam be this alternative? The answer is simply yes. And is the present Ummah capable of offering this alternative? The answer might be no. So our eminent speaker justifies the answer and evaluates the effectiveness of an Islamization process in meeting the demand. Subsequently, he argues that moving from Islamization to integration of acquired or akli and revealed or nakli knowledge may produce elegant results. Finally, a new model for knowledge integration is proposed. I just read to you the synopsis of today's lecture. The topic itself is a question: a nation at risk. Are Muslims backward in higher educations? These questions begets more questions that are thought-provoking, probing the deep recesses of the mind. On this note, allow me to introduce our esteemed speaker. Professor Dr. HUSSAIN ISMAIL ABDUL GANY commenced his career in 1972 as a graduate teacher and later joined the Teachers Training College as a lecturer in 1976. Since 1981, he has served in several universities for more than 30 years in different positions, ranging from a lecturer, a professor, to a head of the department, dean of the faculty, and finally, vice chancellor. During this period, he has awarded with fellowship at Open University, United Kingdom, New England University, Australia, and Science and Technology University, Norway, to conduct collaborative research and develop joint degree programs. In the year 2003, Professor Dr. HUSSAIN ISMAIL ABDUL GANY was appointed as the Vice Chancellor of Southeastern University of Sri Lanka. As a Vice Chancellor, he faced a tough challenge in rebuilding the university, which was badly affected by the tsunami disaster and then ongoing civil war. He designed and developed a master plan jointly with ARUP, London, a leading architectural and engineering company, to make a full-fledged university and managed to secure a grant of USD 25 million from the Arab Development Foundation in Kuwait for that project. After completing his tenure of office as a Vice Chancellor, he then joins University of Malaya as a Senior Research Fellow. From 2012 to date, he served as a Distinguished Fellow or Fellow Utama at the University Science Islam Malaysia, USIM. Professor Dr. Hussain Ismail Abdul Ghani has served as a member of the University Quality Assurance Council and as the chairman of the Advisory Committee of Ministry of Education in Sri Lanka. In 2007, he was appointed as the chairman of a commission to inquire about issues related to education of the Muslim community in Sri Lanka. His major research projects were funded by the World Bank, UNICEF, SAIDA, and Zakat House in Kuwait. Professor Dr. Hussain Ismail Abdul Ghani has given invited talks on university education at University of Dundee, Scotland, University of Brunei Darussalam, Brunei, and University of Madras in India. He has also presented several research papers on higher education at international conferences held in various countries. Our esteemed speaker needs no further introduction. His long, illustrious, and distinguished academic career in the field of higher education speaks for itself. Therefore, without further ado, with great honor, let us welcome Honorable Professor Dr. Hussain Ismail Abdul Ghani to deliver his lecture entitled A Nation at Risk, a Muslim Backward in Higher Education. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang Bahagia Profesor Dato' Musa Ahmad, Vice Chancellor, University Science Islam Malaysia. Yang Bahagia Profesor Dr. Zulkifli Abdul Ghani, Deputy Vice Chancellor. Yang Bahagia Profesor Dato' Hassan Basri, Deputy Vice Chancellor. Yang Bahagia Profesor Dato' Mustafa Muhammad Hanifa, Deputy Vice Chancellor. Professor Madhya Asisi Ismail, Dekan, Faculty of Major Language Studies. Members of USIM Management Committee, distinguished guests, deans, professors, fellow academics, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I have chosen a topic, a nation at risk. Are Muslims backward in higher education? I have not concluded. I have just put a question mark and want to justify where we are and to move forward which way we should take. The present global community is facing enormous challenges. Rising, so I have put some images about the problem the world faces. The planet in risk, environmental hazards, social pollutions, above all, erosion of human values. The rising equality among people and the change of climate due to the human activity, 200 million people unemployed worldwide, and also 81 million people has lost their jobs after the recession, and the massive population growth has become a danger for the health care of the human beings, poverty, malnutrition, and we face problems exact. Now, the world is at the crossroads and just want to turn which way is the best, looking for an alternative. So my question now, So I raise 4 questions. One is, the world searching for an alternative? Is the world searching for an alternative? Answer is yes. Everybody knows. Is Islam can be an alternative? Yes. Even non-Muslims, they accepted numerous articles written by non-Muslim scholars. Islam can be an alternative. My third question, do we have enough resources? Yes, we have. We have a rich heritage we have produced. And we have human resources. We have physical resources. With all that, we are backwards. So, the third question, the present Ummah, I am talking about the present Ummah, not the future. The present Ummah is competent to offer the alternative to the world. Yes or no? Unanswered. But I reluctantly say no. Why? So my presentation will justify my answer. When we come to the heritage of the Muslims, as I said, we have enough resources. And also I said, we have a rich heritage. So we know the contribution of the Muslims to the science, technology in the golden era from 600 to 1250. I just caught Wickens. He described the West borrowed the whole fabric of civilization. The West borrowed the whole fabric of civilization from the Middle East. He further states, there is no evidence. Agriculture, domestication of animals, weaving, irrigation, road making, drainage system, metalworking, weapons and tool preparing, and astronomy, architecture, engineering, mathematics. There's no evidence it has been originated or invented by the West. So we have a rich culture with us. I said that we have resources, human resources. This is the population, the Muslim population, 2014. 29% of the total population of the world is Muslims. The Pew research predicted that it's going to be 33%. It is going to be 1/3 of the population is going to be Muslims. So we have human resources. We have a population, but Muslim world has a youth population, can be considered as a workforce. I just compare the countries, Sub-Sahara, the Muslim youth population, 40% of the population is less than 15 years. In Pakistan, 60% less than 30. 33, in Arab region 29, under 29, and Turkey under 18 years. So we have a strong workforce. Can you go to the next slide? It's not working. Oh, it's okay. Then we'll come to the, wait, I'll go back again. Some problems. when we come to the natural resources, crude oil reserves, the Muslim world, we have about 81%, excluding Venezuela. It's OPEC country, the Venezuela has a large share, but we have 81% of the crude oil reserve. Some problems in, and also the gas resources, we have natural gas production. Although the US, Russia produce more gas, but the Muslim countries, we have natural gas reserve when compared to non-Muslim countries. This bar charts that shows this is non-Muslim countries. They have a reserve about 2,000 trillion cubic feet. Muslim countries, they have 3,000 cubic liters of the gas reserve. So with this heritage and human resources and physical resources, so we are backward. So this tempted me to study why we are backward, what is the level of backwardness, what causes backwardness, and also how to come over with these problems. So I have 5 objectives in mind when I started this study. Number 1 is explained to what extent Muslims living in selected countries are backward in higher education when compared to the world norms. So I am comparing on the world norms only. That is my criteria. There is a world norms developed by international agencies like World Bank, UNICEF, UNDP, some all other international agencies. So I am comparing only the world norms developed by international agencies. So I just measure the level of backwardness among the Muslim Ummah to identify the factors which have contributed to this backwardness, to analyze how far the attitude and values of the Muslim community are responsible for this backwardness. My major focus is on that. Other than other factors, my major focus is on cultural ethos of the Muslim community, which push them back to the higher education. To analyze the effectiveness of criterion, certain perspectives, approaches introduced in the recent decades to address the backwardness. For the last 50, 60 decades, so we have introduced different solutions. So I just want to evaluate what effect that has made in the Ummah to bring up the Ummah from backwardness. And at the end, to propose a hypothetical model for knowledge integration, which may motivate the Ummah to be engaged more in creation of new knowledge. I am referring to creation of new knowledge, not creation of Islamic knowledge. Study sample. So my sample is very limited. I have selected Muslim countries, but my unit of, please do not complicate, the backwardness of Muslim countries is different from backwardness of the Ummah. My unit of analysis is Ummah. Ummah living in that particular country. So therefore, I have selected countries where the Muslim population is more than 75 to 80%. So their contribution can be measured. In that, I could include Malaysia, although it is a Muslim country, but the net production, output of Ummah in Malaysia cannot be There's no statistic for me to take, but I am proud to say that Malaysia is the only Muslim country leading in the world in the production of science and technology and export of psychology, the science and technology. So that is there, but anyhow I couldn't include Malaysia because it's not coming under my criteria. 80% of the Muslims living from Malaysia, only 66%, and also the higher education output, when compare, this consists of 3 ethnic groups, Indian and Chinese and Malay Muslims. So parallelly, equally, all ethnic groups has contributed to the development of science and technology in Malaysia. Therefore, I could not include Malaysia in my sample. So I have used 10 indicators to measure the backwardness as a criteria. Number 1 is adult literacy rate. Adult literacy, many policy analysts always says adult literacy rate is very crucial for the region's human capital development. And also, it is closely linked to the access to a higher education. There are 2 reasons for using this indicator measuring the higher education. Number 2 is gender equality, that shows the gap between the genders. If the gap is increasing, it means that the participation of other gender is not in that country. For an example, Saudi Arabia has a large number of women they are attending. They have a very big university. Anyhow, their participation in the development work is less. So the participation is very important, although they participate in education. What type of education they go for all matters. So that also we can't decide the percentage of gender in different countries. Saudi Arabia shows more percentage of women studying. Tertiary students' involvement, because the tertiary level is a ladder to go for higher education, so that also matters. Then gross graduation ratio. Please don't confuse that with graduate completion rate. I am not referring to that. Graduate completion rate, a number of students completing the graduation within a year or from a university. Graduation rate refers to the total number of graduates at the specified level of education divided by the population at the specified level or age. So that is different from completion rate. Physicians' density. I have taken the density of the physicians in different countries as an indicator because health is an important factor in development. The productivity depends on health condition and lifespan of the people. I consider it's an important indicator. Percentage of graduates in science and technology. The percentage of all university degree awarded in science and engineering field are counted for this. It reflects the relative emphasis of education system placed on scientists and engineers. These skills are highly valued in the time when technological superiority increase, related to the international market competition. Therefore, I have selected that indicator to measure the level of backwardness. I just rushed this chart to save time. So I have 19 charts. So just I can show you where we are. So when you take the adult literacy rate, in developed countries, it goes from 99 to 100, and in Middle East, it has come down to 61 in some countries, 96. But the Central Asia, because my sample, 3 zones, Middle East, Central Asia Muslims, and Muslims living in Asia. So 3 zones I have taken. So here, Asian countries, they have adult literacy rate very low. You see, Afghanistan, 28.1. Gender equality is 9900 in the developed countries. In the Arab countries, it goes up to 79, 96 to 81. But in Indonesia, 94, 86. Malaysia, 92. I have not taken Malaysia also. Pakistan, 68, 40. 68, 40. And Afghanistan, 43 gents and 12% of females equal to that. Tertiary students enrollment, the developed countries about 60, and Arab countries in Oman 8.5. Highest is Libya 48, Kazakhstan and Indonesia 14, Bangladesh 7, Pakistan 5, Afghanistan 3. Expenditure on tertiary education is very important. The limited public funding may result rationing of number of students, and the level of spending may affect the quality of teaching and acquisition of skills by students. The human capital formation, the level of government expenditure and the economic growth is very much related. Therefore, I have taken that sample. Now I am comparing the academic expenditure on tertiary education. Arab countries, you can see Lebanon, Oman, and Tunisia. Other countries, data are not available. Developed countries, this much. And Central Asia, they have little more. And Bangladesh and India is less. Expenditure on research and development. Development depends on nature and standard of higher education. Higher education improves the graduates' ability to use new knowledge. It is the important factor. Investment on research leads to innovation, which strengthens the economy and well-being of the people. This index explains public-private expenditure on creative works, increased knowledge and use of knowledge and use of application of knowledge. So I consider this as an important factor, the expenditure on research and development. You can just see some countries, USA 2.8, Sweden 3.6, Japan 3.4, Korea, all developed countries. See Saudi Arabia, 0.1, which all these rich resources, 0.1%. Saudi, yeah, Kuwait, oh, oil-rich country, spending 0.1% when compared to Korea, 3.4, Japan, and Pakistan and Indonesia is okay. We can excuse them because they are not rich. But these countries, they have resources. Still, they have not shown any interest for research and development. research per million population, researchers per million population. This index explains the number of professionals involved in the conception of new knowledge, products, method and system, and management of the project. So this indicator is very important for the development number of researchers available in that country. And I have taken another indicator jointly with that, the PhD per million. PhD per million, because that's also a very good indicator, the people, number of people who are involved in creation of new knowledge and innovation. So here these top 10 countries, here, or 3,000, more than 3,000. Arab countries, less than 500. Azerbaijan shows increased number because it was under Soviet Union. Because of that, they have produced. If it would have been under Islamic rule, I think it would have been come down. But now, but they have shown now, I don't know the recent trends. It was under Soviet Union. Because of that, they have produced more. Then we come to the Pakistan. Here, Pakistan 78, Bangladesh 51, Malaysia, alhamdulillah, at least 154 we have. My other indicator, there were some queries about this indicator. Why should we depend on America for issuing certificate? Can't we get this certificate from some other country? But I can't answer that question. It's not coming under my purview of my research. The patent refers to the intellectual property right granted by the government of United States to an inventor and exclude others making use of this or selling this his product. That is the certificate. The number of patent refers to that. This indicates the number of inventions in a particular country in a particular year. So this is this indicator. I have just summarized. You take about 200,000. America from 1177 to 2012, and only in 2012, 134,000. So you can compare. You take Arab countries, nearly 25 years, 785. Now 134 for innovation. And Bangladesh is 1, Pakistan 13, Indonesia 12. I have used some indicators which is used by international agencies. There is a consensus among all educational leaders that education leads to development. But there are differences of opinion why we specifically only consider the economic factor for these indicators. Economy is not the indicator for development. So we have to use this moral, spiritual development also to measure the development of the country. So because of that, the researcher search for Islamic human development indicators. Islamic development indicators, there are few, but I have found a recent indicator developed by Henry Andrew in 2010. His Islamic human development indicator. So he has mentioned about 6: faith index, life index, science index, family and social index, freedom index, justice index. Under faith index, he has 2 categories. One is ibadah, second aspect is akhlaq. Ibadah, akhlaq. he has mentioned some criteria to measure the ibadah. Number of people attending congregation. Number of people fasting per 1,000. Number of people performed Hajj from a country for 1,000 Muslims in a particular country. So he has given some criteria. For akhlaq, he has not given any detailed measurement available. Under negative ibadah, that is immoral behavior, he has mentioned about 3 indicators: crime rate, corruption rate, violence, drug addiction. So these are the 4 indicators he has mentioned about negative ibadah. These indices have limitations. It cannot be considered an absolute measure for faith. So you can't just measure the faith of a person who is just going to the mosque. His iman is different, level of iman. So there are so many criticism on that. So we can measure the faith by this indicator. The positive faith indices cannot be, that's a very important question to generalize to the international comparison, because we can't just use it only for Muslim countries. We have to use these indicators for international comparison. So it cannot be used for international comparison. That is one thing. And moral, spiritual indexes available cannot be used for international comparison. And also I have found that when we compare the moral immorality between non-Muslims and Muslim, I didn't find a significant difference between Muslims and non-Muslims. So therefore, I satisfied with the indicators what I have selected. I did some analysis on corruption rate. This corruption rate does not reflect the prevailing corruption in a particular country, but that shows the perception of corruption, because corruption can be found everywhere, but it is reported only in the state sector. The private sector, corruption taking place, it is not recorded. So only the state sector corruption. So there are some indicators. The Muslim countries are not in the best. There are best 50 countries, there is no corruption, but Muslim countries are not in the best 50. A lot of corruption in the Muslim countries. But except in UAE is 25 and Qatar is 26. The best countries is Denmark, New Zealand, Finland, Sweden, Norway. Only country is UAE, Qatar, 25, 26. All other Muslim countries beyond 50. Corruption. So we can justify, if you take moral indicators, we will be high. Huh? Then we'll come to drug abuse. Drug abuse. I just compare. So it is because drug abuse for the last 10 years, the trend is going down. Muslim countries have stopped drug abuse. Anyhow, the available data, Iran 14% heroin, Afghanistan 6.9%, alcohol, Muslim countries are not there, I think maybe forbidden in Islam. Marijuana, Afghanistan 4.3 in 2010, Algeria 5.7 in 2006, UAE 5.4, Pakistan 2.9, Kuwait 3.1. Prescription drug, USA 6.3. So there are also, there's no significant difference between Muslims and non-Muslims. Another one. Oh. Drug abuse, corruption. other ones cannot be taken. Causes for backwardness. Now I have just used indicators and measured the level of backwardness and just compare the norms and come to a conclusion that we are still backwards. So that I have established by analyzing the world norms. The next section, I'm just inquiring what are the causes for backwardness. So there are 5 reasons: historical, political factor. There's a divided house, the Muslim Ummah. I did not explain that. Social factor, economic factor, and cultural factor. My major focus of my study is on this, because I infer the major factor which push the Muslim community backward is their cultural factor, not their religious factors. So my research on equal opportunity for different ethnic groups done in 2005, another research done in 2008 about education of the Muslims backwardness, and some research done in Malaysia, and some research done in Singapore and India. All research has revealed that more than any other factors, cultural factors are more influential in the backwardness. Now I'll come next. Taking the cultural factors, this is the subsections I am just analyzing. I am referring to the cultural factor. Number 1 is attitude of Muslims toward emerging new knowledge. That is a major factor which debars us from higher education, which leads to backwardness. Attitude of Muslims. What is attitude? Religion and new knowledge. Religion and new knowledge. In the early period, Hindus, Christians, Muslims, they believe religious knowledge is finite. It consists of all knowledge. Any knowledge contrary to religion is false. That was the belief of all the religions. Similarly, for certain periods, Muslims had the same view, but certain periods they have changed the view. Muslim history shows sometime the Muslim rulers and ulamas, they facilitated the new knowledge, science and technology and reasoning. In certain rulers and ulamas, they inhibited science, technology and the reasoning. For an example, some Muslim rulers declared Al-Kindi, Al-Razi, Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, Ibn Khaldun, all heretics. And they suffered harassment and torture under these rules, but some Muslim rulers and ulamas, they encouraged. Because of that, we became rich in science and we were able to contribute. This depends on the attitude of, it's not a Quranic guidance. This is not done according to the Quran and Sunnah. This is depend on their attitude. The people who are ruling, I am not blaming the Quran and Sunnah. It is depend on their attitude. The people who have a good attitude, they will support. The people who have bad, negative attitude, they don't support. It's not the fault of the Islam. It's the fault of the rulers and the fault of the scholars who have attitude towards science. It is unfortunate the Muslims still have, some of the Muslims have still the same attitude towards the new knowledge, reasoning, science and technology. Then, is science conflict with Islam? That's my second question. Islam does not contradict with science. During the golden era, Muslim dignitaries encouraged science. Islam does not conflict. For example, these are the two things now non-Muslims have taken is to explain that Islam contradicts with science. One is creation theory, we believe, not only the Muslims believe, Christians believe, Jews believe. 2/3 of the population, they have faith in God. Although they are divided by religion, they have faith. But they are not worried about this evolution theory. They are not gone to the extent of negating science because of the evolution theory. They study evolution theory and they support for creation theory. But Muslims, we are not going in parallelly. We negate and we say we don't want. Okay? I will just give some example what Muslim country and the rotation of sun. Some ulamas, I have seen some video clips, they say that the sun is rotating the earth. Even recently, I saw a video clip. And also, Syed Ahmad Khan, he has said that Islam cannot be proved that the sun is stationary. Because this is, what I say is not the Quran. This is misinterpretation of the Quran. The rotation of the sun. Because the Quran says, Vashamchi tajri. The sun moves, it's in orbit. It doesn't explain sun is moving vertically or horizontally or vertically or going like this way or oval shape or rotating itself or going this way. The sun moves. So Allah has given a hypothesis to test and find out what is happening. Without that, the ulamas, I don't know, they have interpreted the sun is rotating. This is misinterpretation. There are many interpretations of the Holy Quran. Because I think this may be a mistake by the ulama who translated the Quran at that time, because there was an atlas published by a French cartographist. He has shown this sun is rotating the earth. Maybe he would have read that and he would have translated the Quran according to that. I don't know. So this is what's happening. So the misinterpretation of Holy Quran has led the Muslim to confuse with science and say that the other world says that Islam is against science. No, there's no conflict, alhamdulillah. The Quran is Quran. It's given by Allah. It cannot be conflict with any other things. Only thing is we are not enough, poor enough. Our brain is not enough to explain the Quran. That's my... Next, I just explain the Muslim perspective to science, the developing perspectives. One perspective distinguish science from Islam. That's one perspective. They say there's no relationship between religion, Islam and science. Science is science, Islam is a religion, it's for your moral development. You follow Islam to pray, study science for local benefit. So they are distinguished. They are trying to distinguish science. This is one perspective. For an example, the Nobel Prize winner for physics, Professor ABDUL, he states, there is no Hindu science, no Islamic science, no Christian science. Science is science, it is common for all. So he says, science is, don't touch this. That's a different aspect. Religion is metaphysical. Don't touch this. We can't prove religion by science. So that is one perspective. I not agree with them, but that's one perspective I'm referring. And Syed Ahmad Khan, he says, that was in 1895, the purpose of religion is to improve the morality. The purpose of the religion is to improve the morality. It has nothing to do with the science. So that is, there are so many others, they distinguish science. Then the second one, perspective, is saturation with science, saturation with the West. Some people, Muslim scholars, living in Western countries, they say, we have to reform Islam according to the modern world. They ask for a reformation like Martin Luther did in the Christianity. So they are saturated. They are not thinking about Islam. They said, we must change Islam to suit us. So that is one perspective. They appeal for reformation. So this And another perspective, negating science. They are anti-science. They say science is again Islamic. It's not Islamic science. We are against science. Few years ago, Saudi Arabia banned weather forecasting. Weather forecasting was banned in Saudi Arabia, claiming that hidden information, only Allah knows about the weather. Nobody knows. So don't reveal this. It's Allah's work. Based on that, but later some fatwas given, and they have lifted that ban. It means it negates science. And also the creation theory, some of the Muslim countries from the science secondary school syllabus, they have taken out evolution theory and they have replaced creation theory. A professor in the medical faculty in UK, I read a report, he said some of the Muslim students, they are dropping out from medical degree courses, saying that this medical curriculum is almost related to evolution theory. Because of that, they are dropping from medical faculty. So this is a perspective which negates science. This view, this negating science, will paralyze the science among the Ummah. So another perspective is why Muslims fear rational thinking. There's a reason for that, to negate science. One is rationalists. Sometimes they attempted to explain religion by reasoning. That was a mistake done by some of the scientists of the Muslims. They tried to explain the religious, metaphysical, unmaterial, material things through reasoning. So they failed. That led to challenge the beliefs of the Ummah, because that is one reason they fear. Number two is colonization experience. After the downfall of Muslim empire, the Muslim countries became colonies of Western countries. So they introduced their culture, their education system. The Muslims lost their civilization. Muslims lost their freedom. So that fear is still continuing. Misconception of nature of science, earlier I have explained. Negative science. And the fourth one, compliance with science. Compliance with science. That we are going to relate Quranic references to science. That's what we are also doing under Islamization process. We are going to compliance with science. That is another perspective. We relate the science to the Quran. For example, I can mention about a book written by Maurice Bucaille, the Bible, the Quran, and science. He made number of Quranic references to living beings, the human embryos, and human production. But I'd like to caution this approach. When we relate Quranic verses, we should not relate in isolation. For example, Maurice Bucaille says, taking some Quranic verses, and he trying to establish the world is expanding. Sometime another theory may come and say that world is contracting, is closing now. So at that time, the people will have doubt on the Quran because Quran says expanding. But in ayah Al-Anbiya, 30 ayah, Allah says, we expanded, we broken, we opened the earth. Later we will close, we will contract. So it's mentioned elsewhere in different places. So interpreter, a person who tries to compliance must have a holistic view of this theme, what Quran says, without just taking 2 or 3 ayahs and say, yes, this. The science says like this. When the science is disproved, we can't disprove the Quran. We can't disprove, because Quran is Quran. It's a revealed knowledge. It's an absolute truth. Nobody can deny. When we relating the science with Quran, we must be very cautious, because we can relate. Only thing is we must have a holistic picture of the theme everywhere, as the Quran says. Then Islamization. Islamization, a growing perspective for the last 6 decades. So we have Flora Swami, a Malaysian scholar. You know the history. In 1972, Syed Muhammad Naqib Alatas introduced this phrase. Later, a Palestinian philosopher, Ismail Farouqi, he introduced a work plan for Islamization of knowledge. In 2009, Muhammad Kamal Hassan introduced concept relevantization of knowledge. Relevantization. He states, Islamic discipline, make the Islamic discipline relevant to the present day context. He argues Islamic disciplines are in need for reforms, Islah, renewal, constant improvement. So that is a further step. Today, the concept takes the contents, the forms, different forms, and the scope is expanding. Islamization scope is expanding. So Islamization have different category of people, focus Islamization on different aspects. Focus of Islamization. So I have categorized the focus of Islamization of the scholars into 4 categories. One is inquiries on the world beyond. This trend is no more now, but at the initial steps, when the Islamization was introduced, this focus was on this. The science must explain the world beyond. So that was the focus. At the first International Islamic Conference on Scientific Miracles, held in 1987 in Karachi, addressed issues related to Quranic verses and science and technology. A paper attempted to relate Prophet's Mihraj to Einstein theory of relativity. Another paper discussed using the light to create jinns to solve the energy crisis of this world. There's an article, I have that article. My question here is whether these can be achieved, explaining the metaphysical things, relating the immaterial things with the Quran, whether we can do this task. I have my doubt, but I can definitely say the Quran appeals us to inquire the nature of this natural world, the universe, for the well-being of the human beings. So the universe is created by Allah, not the beyond that. So Quran appeals us to do research, inquire into that, try to make use of this nature. So that is the research the Quran appeals to us. So this perspective inquiries on the world beyond. I am sorry for using this terminology, tinkering. Tinkering, this is a new terminology, is used by me the first time because I see the removing certain elements to suit the Sharia. So we have certain things built on other philosophy and we just patch it by cutting the branches. For an example, I'm sorry to take an example from Islamic banking. The Islamic banking is rooted in the capitalist economy. The soil is that. The root is that. Keeping that, we are just cutting and chopping to suit. I call it tinkering. I just want to quote the recent evaluation done on Islamic banks by Rodney Wilson, who visited our university in 2015. I attended his lecture at Sharia law. It was held in Sharia law. You were there, okay? So he mentioned, based on his evaluation, he mentioned, Islamic banks is not cost effective. Islamic banks is not cost effective and charge high rate from the consumers, and service is only concerned about the middle class and upper class. Lower class is not involved in that. That was the comments made by him. But we expected from Islamic Bank a relief from exploitation of the consumers, profit sharing, and also elimination of poverty. How far we achieved? So it's my question. So I call this a tinkering system. Then seek empirical evidence. Third perspective, seek empirical evidence. I welcome these perspectives. You are trying to seek some, based on the Islamic principle, we just try to experiment and find out empirical evidence. Large number of research taking place in USIM, in Malaysia, just to seek empirical evidence. I welcome that, and I always encourage this type of focus must be there. Writing on past glories, we write on past glories, but we stop there, and we are not evaluating what are the mistakes we done in the past and how to improve that and use that fitting to the new knowledge. We are not doing. So we are stopping that. We just say, oh, we did that and this and we were pioneers. Now we are not worried about using that past research into the present context. Next, I come to the effectiveness of Islamization. Effectiveness of Islamization. There was an urgent need to revitalize the suppressed Islamic knowledge and reconnect with original heritage and to relieve the Muslim from the Western way of thinking. So Islamization contributed to achieve this cause. Nobody can deny. They relieved us from the Western thought, Islamic civilization, for the last 50 years. We were in different world, and we have forgot about our heritage. The Islamization process, which encouraged us to come out from this all types of Western thinking. So that is there. So always we appreciate. In fact, the Islamization, first they criticize the West. For the last 50, 60 years, wherever you go for a conference, about half of the paper everybody submit, they criticize the West. Only the half is about something Islamization. You take all the papers submitted, they criticize West is this. So that is, we have spent more time. Even Anwar Ibrahim was addressing in 2003 at Oxford University. He was telling about this. We must forget about this, criticizing the West and go forward. And always this requires to go back to the legacy. Is it requesting us to go back to the old science without forgetting the new science? There are some scholars, they are criticizing on this. In fact, our heritage made a great contribution. Nobody will deny. Our heritage We have glorious heritage, which made great contribution to knowledge, nobody knows. But it can be a starting point. It can be a starting point, not an end point. That's my argument. It can be a starting point. We have, as I said, good heritage, built on that, and go for new knowledge. And my second argument, even non-Muslims criticize the Western system. Even non-Muslims, now they have realized it is wrong. And they have written a lot of books on the Western system. Growing number of scholars in the West realizing the adverse effect it has made on the environment and human life. Now they are questioning their own Western system. So now we need not criticize about them, because they also realize this is wrong. And they are looking for an alternative. And they are like to join with the Muslim scholars. Even China, Japan, India, they show interest in their indigenous education system. But they don't negate or counter with Western civilization, but they are trying to move in parallel with the Western system and also taking into consideration their own system. Then there are parallel concepts growing, like Islamization, decolonization, that's a concept developing, de-Westernization, Africanization. All the Africans' philosophy must be taken into consideration for the development of the Africa. So these are similar concepts developed, like Islamization of knowledge. And my second argument, Islam is universal. Islam is universal. It should give an alternative to human beings, not only for Muslims. I can just remember during Aurangzeb's time, the king, India, he wrote a letter to a small king in India, Shivaji. He wrote, if you want Allah's blessing, you embrace Islam. The letter was. Then he replied, Allah is Rabbul Alameen, not Rabbul Muslimin. So Allah's grace is always with me. Allah is Rabbul Alameen, not Allah is Rabbul Muslimin. So that was the Ganesh, the King Ganesh's reply. So we have to think about Islam is not only for us, not only for Muslims. By Islamization, we just have a specific knowledge only for us. No, the world is expecting an alternative to come out from this demise, come out from backwardness. And it is our duty. Muslim, we have a Quran and Sunnah with us. It is our bounden duty. Allah will ask us, what are you doing with this? So we have to give an alternative to the world. The world is expecting with us. So my hope is Islamization has come to a certain level. We must continue it. So beyond that, we have to focus our thinking. Because of that, I am introducing an integration of Akli Nakli is the best solution to create new knowledge. This is the model that I propose. So I have 11 steps. One is interpretation, low level, exploring the legacy, second level, compare and contrast, compromise, compliance. Up to this, now Islamization is going on. The process is up to this. 5 steps are there, and we call ayatization and adaptation and integration, all this coming under this. Islamization process, interpretation, all these 5 steps are there. So I argue we must go beyond, continue the past research, and we must confirm and create hypotheses based on the Quran, and we establish those hypotheses, and we must build knowledge with other partners who are willing to develop knowledge, value-based knowledge, spiritual-based knowledge. Lot of research going on in counseling and neuroscience, even in other disciplines. So they are isolated from us. So we have to jointly, we have to have a partnership to create new knowledge. At the end, when the new knowledge is created, all scholars will realize that Islam is the only alternative. Then we can think about Islamic theories like Islamic banking theory. The problem is here we are thinking about the Islamic banking theory without going to here. That is the problem. We are thinking about Islamic theory here, building here, without going through this, all this, my opinion. Okay? This side I am talking about Islamization process, and here the limitation of science. Science can't go beyond this. This is immaterial world, metaphysical world. There are other methodology, self-realization, tashkiyah. There are so many other methods that have been introduced by Islamic philosophers. We have to explore this world, we have to use that method, not the science. This is the limitation of science, but this pathway to wisdom, start from here and go here. The Muslims can't stop here. This is only this world. We have to, akhirah, we have to think about that, the future. To do that, we have different methodology that should be developed. So this is the model that I have developed. This model has to be tested. I leave this premature baby, Vice Chancellor, with USIM to carry it and adopt it. Thank you very much. To conclude my speech, I have an obligation to thank Vice Chancellor of this university, who has an energetic personality and dynamic caliber. Above all, he has a sincere heart full of love. And also, I thank the Dean of the Faculty for organizing this function, and for Deputy Vice Chancellor, especially Professor Mustafa, and also his staff, and also my faculty members who did a very hard work to make this function as a success. Within 2 or 3 weeks, they did it. Alhamdulillah. So my bottom of the heart, I thank them very much. And also I thank my reviewers, internal reviewers, Professor Hassan al-Bashari, Professor Suqaimi Jailani, and also external reviewers from University of Malaya, Professor Saida Siraj, and Professor Lilia Halim from University Kabanshan, for making valuable comments to improve my paper. And also, at last not least, I'm thanking all of you for coming here and honor me and grace this occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Hussain, for the lecture, for sharing with us your knowledge and experience, which are critical to the progress of the Muslims and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Musa Ahmad, the Vice Chancellor of USIM, accompanied by Yang Berbahagia Associate Professor Dr. Nur Azizi Ismail, Dean of Faculty of Major Language Studies, to present Professor Dr. Hussain with a certificate and a token of appreciation. Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dato. In return, we would like to invite Professor Dr. Hussain Ismail Abdul Ghani to present his lecture book, Itu Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Musa Ahmad.